All right, so I'm going to lay this deck out that I played tonight.
Excuse me.
New River Skull, like I do completely agree with you, is just insane. I mean, it has just a basic. I mean, the literal floor on it is 1, of course, but you control that with your deck build. So
the floor of it is 2/2 that drew you a card. You don't have to discard to it.
Sure.
And that's great. Like, that's just really good.
Yeah, I mean...
Take that, Ironworker. You suck. River Skull's great. And then River Skull has more text than that, even.
Sure. So the fact that you can discard a card to deal damage, it could be the card you drew because of the order of the operation on him as well, which is pretty amazing also. I think that there are probably better Scald decks out there. Obviously, like a deck that can recur your allies is going to be really abusive with Scald, I think. So, starting to play some of those Divine recursions, Xander recurring allies, Ceremonial recurring allies.
Mounts or Ceremonial, like, anything that lets you get extra triggers out of him is insane.
Yep. I completely agree. And we've seen him played both weeks now in decks that are very strong. So I'm definitely open to anybody talking about, how do we fight Scald? How do you actually fight Scald? What's the way, what are the synergies and strategies in decks?
I would say this is a pretty good way.
I don't disagree. Because you're trading
or other versions of this kind of ability.
Sure. All right. So I played Saria. Saria? I don't know her name. Saria? I don't know. Whatever she is. James is super cool as well. Grab a high-cost ally from your deck and destroy something on command. Cool. I haven't played James yet, so he's somebody that I'm going to have to spend some time on. So she had a battlefield of 5, spellboard of 4, and 20 health. This is going back to that 20 health Phoenixborn, and I still think 20 health Phoenixborns are going to be some of the most powerful in the game.
Man, she makes this guy look like crap. Where's my Phoenixborn? I don't even know.
Well, she just has one more battlefield, right?
One more battlefield and text that matters.
Yeah, her text matters. That's for sure.
And Rymia is one less battlefield and just very mediocre.
I mean, her cost on her text is expensive, especially when you have access to things like Changing Wind when you play Sympathy. Changing Wind is just... that's a super powerful card for sure. Sympathy feels really strong with Changing Winds. So I basically set up my starting 5 as these 3 cards: Changing Wind, Summon Seaside Raven, and Majestic Titan. I was still playing around with a couple of ideas, but ultimately I think after 2 games, my best points are I like the Flute Mage as one of my starting 5. And the reason why is because I can play a single Titan or a single Raven and get a potential double attack out of them on the same turn. And that seems like pretty good value. Both of these cards cost a significant amount of dice. 4 here versus 3 here. So when you talk about that, this is a 2 cost. So 3 and 2 is 5. I have another 2 is 7. And that leaves me with up to a 3 cost to play on my last unit. And so I was playing in the last game Shatterpulse. I'm on the fence about this card.
It's way too expensive.
I think that's where I'm landing on it.
Especially in a deck like this that's like one big threat instead of like guys that you care about dying.
Sure.
Like,
what I thought was interesting about it was this idea of like, okay, I lose a unit, I get to destroy a unit you control. So I was thinking about like threats that are difficult for me to deal with in a deck, and how I can just get rid of them, and then also modify 2 of your dice by reducing power. Takes you off tempo. But I agree that Shatterpulse is too expensive, so I'm not really keen on this particular card. I'm leaning more back into starting Mage, and here's why, or Scald. Or ditch it with Scald for 3 damage. Yeah, that's true. So it does feed Scald if I were to go with a Scald in the starting 5 instead of the Flute Mage. And
you didn't have Scald in your starting 5?
I did in game
You're
1.
a maniac.
So here's what I did in game 1, and I tried to make it work. So this was my starting 5 in game 1. I went this 5 here. I went Seaside Raven, Majestic Titan, Changing Winds, Gravity Training, and Scald. So I had all my ready spells, and I had Scald. Okay. I needed a card of value to pitch for Scald.
Why?
Because I don't have any.
Yeah, but just 2/2 draw a card crushes me.
I don't know if I agree with that because I have
it trades for all my guys in regular combat.
But I still have draw 2. I still have draw 2 through Changing Winds.
That's cycle 2. It's not draw 2.
Well, sure.
Like, like this is a literal 2-for-1 against me, regardless of what mode you play it in.
So, anyways, and I want to take advantage of Scald's ability to its fullest. So, in my opinion, I could Changing Winds, draw 2, and potentially draw something of magic cost value because everything else in the deck is a 2 cost or higher.
If you're thinking about it that way, you're Changing Winds, you're going to draw 2 cards and put 2 cards back. Mm-hmm. So if all you're doing is fishing for a card that you want to pitch to Scald, you should have just started with it in hand.
Well, because what I realized in that process is because of the side action of Changing Winds, I don't actually lose the card. So what I can do, and I just needed, I wanted to hit something different in game 1, but ultimately I can draw 2, cycle 2 back to the top, and I still have on-board abilities to draw both of those 2 cards back, so I don't actually lose anything in this deck at all. Like Changing Winds draws another card, Saria draws another card. Shout out to...
Oh, Gargle. That's my friend James.
Okay. What's up, James? Yeah, man, we're shouting you out.
there is a character in this game called James.
Okay.
I'll see if I can get you one.
So that was kind of the initial thoughts with this deck. I definitely would like to play it again because I think that I would make some changes, but I mean, Shatterpulse is in the deck and it's cool. I think Essence Druid is changing, if I'm not mistaken, but I really ended up liking Flute Mage a lot more than I thought I would.
It's very good with the Titan.
And so I think I would probably swap some of the String Mages for the Flute Mages. I thought String Mage might be a little more powerful than it ended up being, and it just felt really situational.
Super, super slow.
Yeah, so I think...
Though it is like a combo.
They are. But I think like a single String Mage and then 2 Flute Mages would be the way I would change this deck if I was moving forward with it. That's just talking about that. So let's just go through the allies quick, but that was the starting 5 that I would recommend in most cases. Although you can change up and drop the Gravity Training. That's a card that's very much still on the fence. If there's a better ready spell here, I'm all ears on it. I just thought it would be interesting to see whether or not that alteration, that +1/+1 alteration to Raven was powerful to turn it into a 4/3. I was just looking for ways to trade with other 4 defense allies in the game. Because otherwise Raven's going to get hit back and die. And maybe that's not a big deal, but it kind of felt like a big deal.
Well, if you get to do cool stuff like play River Skull, discard something bad, and then Raven them, and it still doesn't fight him back, right?
Well, like you can't do that all in the same turn, though. Right? You play River Skull, you do some damage, then they can pressure your Raven or kill your Raven out of combat, and then you don't get the Raven. So what I was looking at was, if I play Raven, it comes back around to my turn, I now have a side action to buff Raven to do the job. That's what I was considering.
The Gravity Training was better than I gave it credit for, because I think alterations are bad. But you did 2-for-1 me with it, because you got to activate it twice. Mm-hmm. So I'm it's on the fence for me. It's fine as a one-of. I wouldn't do much else. But on the ally side, 3 Essence Druid, obviously 3 River Skull, 3 Hollows. This version had 3 String Mages and Flute Mages, but as I mentioned before, I think that should end up being 3 Flute Mages and 1 String Mage. On the action side, I play new ideas for additional card draw. This is just so if I end up with a hand, which happened in a number of scenarios, I ended up with a hand where Scald was like, and the other 2 cards were needed for me. I wanted to find 2 cards that I didn't care as much about for Scald's ability. Or you just discard the new ideas to the Scald, because that's also insane.
It's also insane to do that, yes. So if you have new ideas in Scald in hand,
changing.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume it's changing. It seems really good. Seeds of Aggression is just insanity. This card is so good. It's not good with Raven, but it's really good with big threats. So like my Majestic Titan is a really good threat for that.
Well, it's bonkers with Titan, right? Like it's
Yeah.
okay with everything else.
It's fine with bears. It's fine with
and like it's okay even just to like trade your River Scald for something
right.
with it.
Yeah.
Because apparently you get to fight after your guys are exhausted, which I don't think there are very many.
No, you're fine, Matt. That's what we're here for. So
yeah, please talk. Like it's much better to have a conversation with chat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad to lose the Raven turn over turn. I think that we saw that in game 2 where the Raven just got to prey a bunch, and that's a powerful come into play ability for sure. So my other 3 were Sympathy Pain. I just think this card is still really good, even if it's dumbed down a little bit from the old version. It's still just fine as is. And this,
well, did the old version hit units?
Yes,
because that's the good half of it, right? Like
it was 3 damage. It's now 2.
Yeah, so it's like, and it's cheaper. This card is better than the old one.
Yeah,
like because it costs half as much.
Yep,
and does 2/3 as much.
It's definitely a more powerful card.
And it's Charm or Sympathy now. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the Shatter Pulse again was included just as 3 mana cost, just like the Essence Rune. It was a 3 mana cost for Scald.
Man, this card was a blowout.
And Golden Veil seems to me to be one of the best charm cards in the game. Just the fact that...
What did this used to do?
I don't know.
Oh, the exact same thing, except it cost a nature and a charm class instead of a charm
now
power.
It's just accessible just to charm. I was really pleased with this deck overall. I thought it did exactly what I wanted to do. It built a board of 4 or 5 really good units.
I mean, this is exactly the deck that I love. It's got Scalds in it. It draws like some random extra cards. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't play like some of these random things, but I like Saria a lot as like a generic good guy, because the mill thing is fine, like whatever.
Right.
But just like having a 6-card hand.
And I think if you're not playing against Ceremonial, the mill is still relevant against your opponent because it just takes away access to a card. And yeah, it can help them get to a card they're looking for too, but it also just takes away access to cards.
I think I would mill myself most of the time.
Really? Why? I would do that if I was playing like Charm Ceremonial with her. Or like...
I guess in this deck you have literal... No, I would definitely mill myself because of this.
Why? What does having the Essence Druid in the bin do?
It's a chance to draw you a card. No, you mill like ready spells and get it back.
Huh?
This gets ready spells back when you play it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I only have 4 ready spells on the whole deck, though. Like, those are in the starting 5. They're not going to be in my deck.
Oh, well...
So, like, because it's only a spell board of 4. So, like, you're not going to play a bunch of ready spells just to, like, mill yourself to get back allies. That seems...
Well, you get back ready spells. But
yeah.
in any case, I think that a lot of the time, like, the mill is equal to 0, unless you're actually a mill deck, which I think exists. But I think just, like, 6-card hand at the cost of 1 dice is pretty good.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
And her stats are good.
Yeah.
Like, she has a lot of health. Her numbers for Battlefield and Spellboard are both pretty big.
So,